Welcome back. It is Bones, and in this one, let's go ahead and take a look at my little collection of classic Robin figures. Now, this came along because I did find on eBay a Dick Grayson Robin for $25. Now, the problem was that the arm was broken on it and it did say no returns. Now, you know me, I'm a big mad scientist, and I pretty much knew once I ordered him that I had an idea how I would end up fixing him and adding him to my Robin collection. Now, I mainly did this because that certain Robin figure right now is going for around $50. It's a long story. This is kind of going to be a little bit of a story time more than anything from me. But when the initial release of this figure came out on the McFarlane Toy Store, every time I clicked on to order this figure, it did not allow me to order it. So I missed out, I think, 3 times. My order would just not go through. And although it was a big letdown, per usual, I did not let it affect me. I knew that eventually I would pick up this Robin figure. Now, fast forward to now, and I actually have 3 of him because I have my original one here next to the Nightfall Batman, and I also have one in package that I have in my complete McFarlane Mint on Card collection. Now, I also have now the one I found for $25 on eBay, but I have repaired him, so now everything worked perfectly. All I had to do was actually change out one of the ball sockets from the shoulder from an extra Carrie Kelly that I had and swap it out so you do not see that little ball socket, so it doesn't make a difference. It works perfectly. The only difference is the color of the little ball socket, but since it is covered by the shoulder, you do not actually see that. So it was a perfect purchase for me, worked out perfectly. Now, one gripe I did have is that I actually wanted to have a different head because I really wanted a classic looking, little Robin. And I make no bones about it. The first release is a creepy little bastard. He looks weird. A little bit, creepy vibes coming off of him. And he just looks unnerving. When I look at him, he kind of looks at me like he wants to do bad things to me. But I do really like him. I like having him in the collection. But I did want some alternate versions of him. So I started the look on eBay, and I could not find, for the life of me, a classic little Robin head. The other problem you have is you're not sure if they're going to scale it for 7-inch, which is 110, or they're going to scale it for 6-inch for a smaller figure. So you're kind of playing a game of chance if they're going to send you the correctly scaled head. But besides that, I could not find any. Now, when you go online, usually heads cost you from anywhere between 20 to 25, even 30. Maybe you may be able to find one for less than 20, but that's very rare, and usually it's a head that nobody really wants. Now, the bad part about these heads is that they are just resin heads and they are not painted. So usually when you want a painted head, it costs way more than double the price of a regular head. And that is where my friend Ink Drop Customs comes in. Now, everybody should know him. Basically, I've seen his channel almost from when he started doing McFarlane things till right now. Pretty awesome guy. He started off doing a lot of lights in the figures and actually on vehicles, but he also does capes and custom heads and repainting. A lot of cool stuff on that channel, so go ahead and check him out if you do not follow him. That's Ink Drop Customs. Now, he was actually selling these Robin heads, on his own, and I really wanted to buy the pack because it was actually 2 heads, different ones. One kind of like smiling head, and then one just regular head, and they actually came painted. Now, I think it was like $70, and you might think, well, that's too much for 2 heads. Well, actually, it's not, for the simple reason that these heads actually came already painted, and beautifully, I must say. I think he even added like a little touch of like gloss to the mouths to make it, look a little shiny, which is a nice chef's kiss for these custom heads. Also, they actually came ready to pop onto the peg of the robin body, which you do not get when you buy a regular resin head. Now, I actually figured out a way to pop resin heads on rather perfectly, but that's a whole completely different conversation. But came nicely packaged, really protected in a little box, and he actually also gave me, this little container that had the heads in it. So you're getting a painted head ready to snap on, and packaging, and all of that in a nice little bundle. So for me, it was actually one of the better purchases I made. So in the future, if you follow him, he may end up making alternate heads for other figures that you might want. Now, I actually ended up using the little box to hold all of the robin hands, because now I actually have 2 sets, which will actually come in useful eventually for taking figure photography and posing them. And that is actually what brings us into what we're doing here today. And that is that I actually wanted to make some matchups, and I didn't know which Batmans to use. I actually did my normal modus operandi, and I actually went online and looked at images of statues that I kind of wanted to replicate. So each one of these I actually put into a pose to try and replicate a statue that's out there, in the interwebs, matching them as closely as I could. But it was pretty fun, and now I have my whole, cornucopia of little robins that I can actually choose from. I actually threw in the Carrie Kelly because one of these actually has her body, but you can't even really tell, and he's like, I use him more like as a littler, classic little kid robin, so that was kind of fun. And I had to have a body to put the extra head that I had, because of course this one was going to be my go-to head that Ink Drop sent to me. So I'm really happy with this, glad to have all these robins to pose. But let's go ahead and see what we did. Now, first off, the Nightfall Batman with my original gold label Little Robin. Now, I don't know, this is like an older sort of plastic statue, or it looks like, or something like that. And the way the cape was, I kind of wanted to use the Year 2 Batman at first, but I don't know, I really like pairing up my original gold label Robin with the Nightfall Batman. I think it just looks really classic and they fit really well together. But this is the image of the little statue, and then I tried to replicate it, in a pose, so that was pretty fun. Then you go into my preferred head from Ink Drop, and that is matched up with my custom Black Hush Batman, which has not been released yet, but I've been having fun. I've been having fun for more than almost 2 months with my custom one. He's actually my go-to Batman that I use a lot, and he looks really, really clean. Now, this head actually is awesome. This is what I really wanted when I was looking for a head online, and that is a sort of excited, energetic, smiling, sort of in action Robin head. Fits perfectly. Now, this is actually the Robin body that I bought for $25. I just fixed the arm. And then I found a statue that kind of matches the color scheme and the setup, and I got it as close as I could to the way the statue looks. So that one was pretty fun as well. Now we go into the alternate head that I got sent, and this is actually the Carrie Kelly body with the alternate head, but it looks fine. Actually works because he looks a little bit shorter, so he's kind of like a little boy Robin. Now, I kind of also had a hard time picking what Batman to use. I kind of wish I could go back and I should have used the Year 2 Batman, but since I hadn't touched him in months, I ended up using the 3 Jokers blue version of Batman from the Family 5-pack, and finally get him off of the shelf and actually do something with him. The last thing I did with him was actually remove the paint from his trunks. I just thought it looked a lot better and a lot more classic with those blue trunks. And then I found a sort of statue that I wanted to replicate. Really hard to get him to stand on one foot, but eventually I did manage it, and then you have your Robin next to him with the little batarang that he comes with the white robe. So it was pretty fun also to work on this one. Now I did see on that statue a lot of paint details that they actually put on their statue version of this Batman. So I kind of want to add those little paint details to this blue Three Jokers Batman, because it like dirties up the cape and dirties up around the boots, and they actually did the same thing to the Robin. So if I have time, I'm gonna want to get the paints out and actually add some little, details to these, just to give them some pizzazz, because they actually don't have that much character the way they look. I mean, they're pretty fun, but I think giving them those little paint details and dirtying them up would just bring them to life a little bit more and make them pop. Now finally we get to, I just threw these in for fun, but I am working on this Dark Knight Returns Batman. Now I actually want to do some custom work on him, which is like I actually raised up his height, and I want to add those pouches that go around his thigh, which are in some of the images from the Frank Miller run of the comic. And also I want to do I want to go ahead and try one more time at some washes and darken him up a little bit to give him some depth and make him look a lot cooler. And the Carrie Kelly Robin has actually grown on me. I really like that figure. I don't know why. I like her clear goggles. I love the head sculpt, and just had a lot of fun with her. And I've actually bought this Carrie Kelly figure I think 6 times for customs, and then I bought the gray platinum, and I also have her up here next to the horse, the Batman on the horse. So she's one of the 5-figure clubs, and I've actually bought her multiple times. So the statue I wanted to replicate here, I had 2 versions. One was where they're jumping through the air, but I've seen a lot of people do that one, so I wanted to go with a different one where she's actually like shooting her slingshot and Batman is there like helping her out, giving her some tips. I thought it looked really cool. Now of course one thing is, I had an idea to cut the bands from this slingshot and use an actual real rubber band to get that full stretch. But I thought just for one shot, I'm never going to use it again. I didn't want to destroy the slingshot. And another thing that happened is that I actually wanted to raise the neck peg on the Batman, because the original version, when you get him out of the package, his head is so low on his body that the articulation is really bad, and it's hard for him to look down. He can look up generously, but he can actually get more range if you just raise the peg. Now that brings me to another person, and that is, he used to go by Professor Bex a lot, but now he says that call him BJ, but he's Professor Bex. Everybody should pretty much know him. And he's also pretty cool because he makes a lot of 3D printed parts for figures. Originally, I heard of him when he made the fists for Bane, that I actually received some and used them and modded them to make them articulated. And those are my those are actually on my custom painted Bane. So that's where I heard of Professor Bex. But he's also done Beast Boy. I'm sure he's gonna do more in the future. And he actually sent me these free assortment of pegs, which I'm really happy. I didn't ask him to. He just sent them to me, and I really appreciate that. And I actually saw one in here, and it was like a green colored one that I thought would work perfectly for this Batman head. Now, since they are 3D printed, you do want to soften up the head and make sure it's nice and soft and pliable so that you don't have to force the peg in there or anything, the double barbell. And it went right in there, had articulation to move around. I softened up the head and then popped it right in, and now he has a lot of articulation. He can actually look up really well, he could look down really well, and it even brings up a little bit of his attitude, I could say, or just the choices you have and how to position his head really lift up the figure and just takes him up to another level. So really happy about that. That's another guy you might want to follow in case he ever makes parts that you might want for a figure, and you could order them from him and add them to your collection. So now that I had them looking the way I wanted to, I actually put them in the pose that I wanted. wasn't too hard. The added articulation to the Batman made it easier, and I was actually pretty happy with how I was able to replicate that little statue. So, a lot of fun here. A lot of times we forget that that is what this, hobby should be, is fun. Collect what you like, collect what speaks to you, and what is appealing to your eye. We're never gonna agree, we're never gonna all like the same things. There's so many things that are like separate us in action figures, cloth capes, plastic capes, accessory wise, and even design wise, that we should just remember that this should be fun. And I had a lot of fun doing this video. Check out Ink Drop Customs and check out Professor Bex. You guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
Used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.